Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulullah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi min wala. So in the story, when basically the boy gets killed, after the king said in the name of the Lord of that young man, then 20,000 people actually became believers. Now, how did they decide to change all of a sudden and for belief to be established in their hearts so strongly that it resisted even the burning? So even though they were basically threatened by being killed, but they remained steadfast, 20,000 people, is it just this basically one moment that started everything? Of course, it doesn't go this way. So belief is not just basically established through a moment of motivation or basically a moment of impression. So it is not that. So it has to be built. This is how belief, otherwise it will not tolerate the big test, like in this story. So when the man said, or when the king said, in the name of the Lord of this young man, and that basically was the trigger, so to speak. But there had to be some parallel efforts that was going on into explaining to the people actually what belief is and helping them establish that belief in their heart. So there had to be actually a parallel da'wah effort going on in there, even though we don't hear about it. I mean, the star of the story, of course, was this young man, but there has to be something else. Otherwise, a moment of motivation will not be strong enough to face the story that is mentioned in this surah. 20,000 people being killed and thrown into the fire actually on the spot. So there has to be some parallel effort. And this is a big lesson actually for us about the importance of the collective work. So even though, like I said, the star of the story is one person, but that one person was not the only one involved. There had to be some parallel effort going on in the background that explains to the people actually the importance of that, and even going further into the importance of sacrifice for the sake of God and sacrifice for the things that they believe in. That's why there's a big lesson in here. First, a lesson about, sincerity. SubhanAllah, even if you look at the story of the boy itself, I mean, the boy basically gave his life away. And then after his death, shortly, 20,000 people basically became believers. Now, did he see that? Of course, he didn't see any of that. But that does not diminish his reward with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself actually saw the 20,000 people. And the other people, whoever was helping him in the da'wah work, of course, we don't know anything about them. We don't know anything about them, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows everything about them. And that's really what matters at the end. And this is the importance of the collective work. So it is not just basically whoever was in the limelight. God knows who actually is working in the background for the whole work to succeed. That's why we are required to approach any effort actually in the best way that we can. We are supposed to seek the best results. And then after the results come from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. People sometimes, or commonly, they say, well, just do whatever you can and the results come from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Well, there's a partial truth to that statement, but not completely. You do whatever you can, but you have to plan the best way. You have to actually plan for the best results, and you have to approach it in the best way. But then afterward, whatever comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is good. So we worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We don't worship the results. We plan for the results. We plan for the best of the results. But then after that, whatever comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then that is something that He decides Himself. But again, so the story here is not just about one person. One person cannot actually convey the message. There had to be efforts going on in the background where people will benefit from the occasion. Like in this situation, the situation where everybody now is looking as to what happens to this young man, and everybody's watching really attentively after the multiple attempts of the king to kill that young man and then failing. So everybody's watching, and here basically the people working for the da'wah, so to speak, were able to benefit actually from those events and to capitalize on that. And at the end, the results come from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen.